Good Wednesday, everybody. I am Mac, and I am back with another video, as these are my Week 3 picks of the 2023-24 NFL season. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram, link in the box below. I am not off to a good start. Week 1 is like whatever, because a lot of upsets occur. But man, week 2 was just an absolute train wreck for me. 8-8. I was lucky to even finish 500 in week 8. So 17-15 on the year. I got to step up my game a little bit, which is why I'm actually recording this on Tuesday night, because I took a look at lines and I also took a look at player statuses and injuries for each matchup. So I'm going to really be careful for week 3 right here. And whenever I go with my gut, because I ignored my gut feeling a lot in week 2, and I feel like that cost me some games. And usually when I have a gut feeling about something, it's usually correct. So I'm going with my gut more for this week than I am with my mind, if that makes any kind of sense. So, this is a big week for me as far as pick'em goes, and I'm also going to try to keep this video under an hour long. So my goal for this pick'em here is to keep it under an hour long. So let's not waste any time with all that being said, and let's get on to it. These are my week 3 picks of the 2023 season. Kicking things off, we got Thursday night football in San Francisco between the New York Giants and the 49ers. Giants had an improbable comeback against the Arizona Cardinals, down 28-7 to them, I think, at one point. And the 49ers doing what they do best, which is beat the Los Angeles Rams. They've now won 9 straight regular season games against the Rams. But some headlines in this one: it all revolves around Saquon Barkley. He got hurt in that Cardinal game, and the initial ruling for him was that he was expected to miss 3 weeks with that ankle sprain that he had. But there's been a little bit of change in progression for him, and the Giants are hopeful that he can return a little bit sooner. But my deciding factor is this: the Giants, they went from Glendale to San Francisco, which is, it's a short plane ride over there. But I think the 49ers are just at a huge advantage in this one. And that's why I'm taking the 49ers in this. Because, they came off a road game as well, and now they got to go back home. But the 49ers, they did not have to leave the state of California, because they played the Rams in Los Angeles, and all they got to do is take a bus ride up back to San Francisco to play the Giants, who, credit to them, they had a great comeback, like I said, but against a Cardinal team that a lot of people are suspecting to be tanking, myself included, it should not have even had to come down to that. And the 49ers, they are just far and away the better team, in my opinion. In my opinion, right now, they're the best team in the NFL. They are just too good. I got San Francisco starting off 3-0. Give me the 49ers to take this one. All right, now we got the Sunday games, and in the early phases of Sunday, first up, we got the Tennessee Titans and the Cleveland Browns. This one is in Cleveland. The Titans finally snapping their losing streak as they are 1-1, a comeback win over the Chargers. Surprise, surprise. And the Browns are also 1-1, as we all know the story for them on Monday night. They drop it to us in Pittsburgh, 26-22. Not only did they lose in heartbreaking, typical Cleveland Brown fashion, but they also lost Nick Chubb for the rest of the season with a knee injury. I think it's a broken leg, I've heard by multiple people. And some people have even suspected that it could be career-ending as well, which, as a Steeler fan, I've said it multiple times already over the past 30 hours or so now, that, I don't like the Browns at all. They're a division rival, but I always liked Nick Chubb, and that really sucks to see him go down like that. So the Browns, they pretty much have to rely on Deshaun Watson now to win them games. And if Jerome Ford, their second string running back, can step up to the plate. And the Browns defense, I think, is definitely going to keep them in some games going down the road, because they definitely do have a fearsome front four right there, led by Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith. But regardless, I think I'm going to go Tennessee on this one. Not just because Nick Chubb is missing for the Browns and he's the bulk of the offense. He is the offense, in my opinion. But it's like I said, the Browns are probably now going to be in a situation to where teams are looking at them being like, you know, the strength of this team's offense is gone now, so it takes a lot of pressure off of us, and we're going to have to make Deshaun Watson beat us now. Deshaun Watson has looked terrible so far. You know, he had the Browns turned the ball over 4 times against us on Monday night. Deshaun Watson had I think he had a lost fumble. He had a strip sack fumble, I know for sure, and he had a pick 6 against us. So Watson just has not been playing well. And when he was with the Texans, I know that he usually had good games against the Titans, but, you know, Tennessee, I really think they can keep him at bay here. And now the Browns are going to have to go up against Derrick Henry, who is a great running back, but he's incredibly hard to bring down as well. I just think it's, you know, a little bit of a struggle right here for the Browns as far as missing Nick Chubb and going against Derrick Henry goes. So I am actually going to go Tennessee on this one. So give me the Titans to win 2 in a row. Next up, we got the trickiest one, in my opinion, a game that I thought long and hard about. We got the Atlanta Falcons and the Detroit Lions. This one is in Detroit. Falcons are surprisingly, and in my honest opinion, quietly 2-0, as their defense looks really good this year. They're playing very well on defense. Bijan Robinson is living up to his expectations. A great running back that the Falcons have there. And, you know, they are 2-0, and, you know, the quarterbacks that they beat are a little inexperienced. You know, they beat rookie Bryce Young in week 1. Then they beat Jordan Love's Packers, in week 2. So they have beaten rookie to inexperienced quarterbacks. But now they're going up against Jared Goff, which, you know, the Lions, I mean, obviously they can put up a lot of points, as it showed in that heartbreaking loss at home they had to the Seahawks in overtime in Ford Field last week. So, I mean, the Lions, I still think that they're a really solid team, and I really think that they can be dangerous in the NFC. But a couple of things here. The Lions are a little bit banged up. You know, David Montgomery, you know, is banged up in this one, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson banged up in this one as well. And that's where I think the Falcons can actually come on in and take advantage of Detroit being a little undermanned here. Because I think if the way Arthur Smith is conducting this offense is going to be successful for Atlanta, Detroit is going to have a kind of a mismatch right here, because the Lions were kind of caught off guard as far as the run game goes. So this one really took me some thought to come down to a conclusion to, and I generally don't trust Atlanta. But I think I'm going to take Atlanta to go to 3-0 here. Because like I said, Jared Goff, he's getting the job done with Detroit, but Jared Goff has a reputation of, you know, folding against tough defenses. And like I said, Atlanta's defense has played very well to start the season, and I really do think that despite being a 3-point underdog, at least for right now coming into this game, I like Atlanta's chances of going into Detroit and dropping the Lions to 1-2. So I am actually going to give this one to the Atlanta Falcons to go to 3-0. Speaking of teams that are also undefeated, we got the New Orleans Saints heading up to Lambeau to play the Packers, as this is Green Bay's home opener. The Saints are 2-0. They got the job done over the Carolina Panthers, but it really wasn't all that easy. I mean, Bryce Young, you know, had some pretty good plays against the Saints, but, you know, the Saints, it looks like they are, you know, living up to expectations. Derek Carr is performing as advertised. He looks like the quarterback that the Saints have been needing for a while now. Saints still got that great defense down there in New Orleans, and, they can still get it done with offense as well. So, I mean, the Saints, they're no slouches. They're off to a solid start, even though that both their wins have been by one possession. But, hey, it's not college. Style points don't matter. Green Bay is 1-1, and they blew it to Atlanta, ironically, because the Falcons are usually the one that chokes leads, but now Green Bay blew it to them. Green Bay, there are some question marks with them as well. I still like them defensively, and I still like them in the backfield as well, but I think Aaron Jones being uncertain for this game and Christian Watson also being uncertain are going to hurt Green Bay's chances a little bit. Jordan Love, he turned in a solid game against the Falcons, all things considered. But this is going to be a big test for Jordan Love right here because he is an inexperienced quarterback, and he's going up against that physical defense that the Saints have. And I think that's just where New Orleans one-ups Green Bay in this one. Generally, I don't like picking against the Packers at home, but this is uncharted territory for him right now with Jordan Love going up against a physical defense, which is why I'm actually going to say the New Orleans Saints go to Green Bay and they also get to 3-0. I think a lot of people are kind of underestimating the Saints a little bit as, people were like, oh, Derek Carr can't do it on his own. Oh, the Saints, they're not really an explosive team. All they are is defense. Well, true, but the Saints, so far they've shown that they can get some good plays on offense and they can limit their opponent, and now they're going up against a little bit of an undermanned and uncertain Packer team right now with an inexperienced quarterback. So I am actually going to go with the New Orleans Saints to go up to Lambeau and get the job done over the Packers. Next, we got one of the easier ones. We got the Denver Broncos and the Miami Dolphins. Denver is 0-2, and they had that crazy Hail Mary at the end of their home game against Washington on Sunday where Russell Wilson lobbed one to the end zone. It was a nice Hail Mary. Washington, they tipped the ball up, and you're always taught, even in, Pop Warner, that when the quarterback is going for a Hail Mary like that, you bat the ball down. You don't tip it up in the air. That was a big mistake by Washington right there. But luckily for them, the Broncos missed the 2-point conversion to tie the game and send it into overtime. So Denver is 0-2, and Russell Wilson just continues his poor play as a Denver Bronco, and it looks like Sean Payton, not even he can fix the Broncos at this point. And I'm surprised, Denver is off to this 0-2 start considering the defense that they got. Now they got to go to Miami to play the Dolphins, who are 2-0. They got the job done over the Patriots. The Dolphins' run game looked pretty solid on Sunday night, and Tua Tagovailoa once again turning in a solid performance against the Patriots. Dolphins' offense is really good to start off the season, and their defense once again with the pass rush being lethal. I think that's a big mismatch right there for the Denver Broncos, as I think the Dolphins are going to be too physical for them. So, yeah, I'm going to say Miami gets to 3-0. I like the Dolphins' chances to get to 3-0. That's just a part of me that's like, I can't trust the Broncos. They're too bad. They're too underachieving to be this bad. But at the same time, the Dolphins, they are playing as advertised. I like Miami in this one to go to 3-0, so give me the Dolphins. Wow, I did not think this would be a matchup between two teams that are 0-2, but alas, here it is. We got the Los Angeles Chargers and the Minnesota Vikings going at it in Minneapolis. The Chargers are 0-2, and in their last 3 games, they've blown leads. Last week against the Titans, they blew it to Tennessee, allowing the Titans to snap their losing streak. Vintage Chargers right there. Then in week 1, They had a back-and-forth game against the Dolphins, which I can't really hold against them because Miami has a high-powered offense. They blew it to them. And then obviously there's the big one, the wild card back in January, where they blew it to the Jags. LA is 0-2 to start the year, despite having a lot of firepower on their offense. And the team they're playing is pretty similar to them in the Vikings, who are also 0-2. They drop week 1 to Tampa Bay at home. And then last Thursday in Philly, they battled hard against the Eagles. Probably the best primetime game I've seen Kirk Cousins have in his entire career when he's not playing the Chicago Bears. But the Vikings, I mean, their defense let them down big time against that Philly offense. And Minnesota is off to an 0-2 start. So what do I think about this one? I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. It has a ton of potential to be the game of the week right here. And in my honest opinion, I think Roger Goodell, you should flex our game off of Sunday Night Football and make this Sunday Night Football. I don't care if both teams are 0-2. I think this should be your Sunday night game right here. Okay? So it's a battle of two high-powered offenses going at it. And, both defenses are really bad. The Chargers, their defense is awful to start the year. And I really am not sold on their defense as a whole in general. And Minnesota's defense, we always knew was going to be a problem coming into this season as well. So I think it's going to come down to, again, who gets the ball last and who can make their last possession count more. But the biggest X factor for me here is this. While the Chargers are notorious for losing one-game possessions and they're notorious for blowing leads, the Vikings are the opposite. The Vikings, over the past couple of seasons, have the most one-possession win games in the NFL. And last year, the Vikings set an NFL record for being 11-0 in one-possession games, which, like I said, is an NFL record. So that's my X factor right here, and that's why I am actually saying the Minnesota Vikings win this game, avoid 0-2, and they drop the Chargers to 0-3. My bottom line for this one is that I trust the Vikings way more in one-possession games and holding a lead than I do with the Chargers with sustaining a lead and coming up clutch when the chips are down, Because honestly, I don't think Justin Herbert or Kirk Cousins are clutch quarterbacks at all. But the difference is, like I said, the teams. I trust the Vikings more to win a one-possession game than I do the Chargers to sustain a lead. Plus, Austin Eckler did not play last Sunday, and he's expected to miss this game as well. So I think that is going to be a big dagger right there for LA. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to finally get their first win of the year while the Chargers' struggles continue. Give me Minnesota to beat the Chargers. Now, going from the potential game of the week to my toilet bowl of the week, we got the New England Patriots and the New York Jets at MetLife. And yes, this is my toilet bowl of the week. The Pats are 0-2, and yet again, another loss for them where they come up just short because they lost by 7 points to Miami, but the last play for them involved going for it on fourth down, and they nearly converted it with their lateral to their offensive lineman who came up just short of the first down marker, and the Dolphins were able to just nail it down. And New England is now 0-2 for the first time since 2001. But get it out of your head, guys. This team ain't winning the Super Bowl. Mac Jones is the furthest thing possible from Tom Brady. So New England's defense is playing well to start off the season as expected, but their offense just remains stagnant. Meanwhile, you got the New York Jets who are 1-1. coming off getting absolutely dominated by the Dallas Cowboys down in Dallas, 30-10. They just did not look good at all against the Cowboys on Sunday. And I said that the Cowboys would win, but I thought the Jets could have a chance at winning, but man, it didn't come to fruition at all. They were just completely and utterly humiliated. Micah Parsons absolutely went off on the Jets in that game. So I think with this one, it's going to come down to defense as expected. I don't see this being high scoring at all. It's going to be a matchup of who can make less mistakes on defense here. While the Jets do have a really solid defense and they have a really solid run game, the Patriots can counter with that because their defense, which is for the most part being called by Belichick, his bread and butter is that he takes away your strengths and he turns it into your weakness. So I think New England's rush defense is an X factor here, but also you got to figure Mac Jones going up against a tough Jets defense where Mac Jones is a little he is a little antsy to get rid of the ball at times, and the Jets are good at generating turnovers. So I think that's something to look out for as well. But my biggest deciding factor here is that Bill Belichick just always has the Jets number. I cannot remember the last time the Jets beat the Patriots. It had to have been like back in 2015 or something. The Patriots have just owned this rivalry as of late, and until they actually cough one up against the Jets, I'm going to pick New England to beat them every time. I see this being a low-scoring game. I don't see a lot of points being put on the board at all in this one. And I think in the end, the Patriots will finally get a W, knowing that they don't have to go up against Aaron Rodgers for this one, while the Jets, it kind of seems like I said, they kind of struggle a little bit against the interior, and with New England's physical linebackers going at it for this one, I think that's going to be their downfall. So I am going to go with New England to avoid 0-3, get their first one of the year, dropping the Jets to 1-2. So give me the Patriots to beat the Jets. Next, we got the Buffalo Bills going to D.C. to play the Commanders, and I'm saying it right now, this screams a trap game right here. I really do think that this could be your trap game of the week right here. Why? Because the Bills, they had like a get-it-right kind of game against the Raiders. They dominated them 38-10. Josh Allen looked flawless in that game. A huge bounce-back game for him. Huge rebound from that terrible Monday night game that he had against the Jets. And the Bills, they are back on track. They are 1-1, avoiding 0-2. Looking to keep up the pace in the AFC East. So props to the Bills right there for not falling for the Raiders' traps. But now you're going up against Washington, who is also quietly 2-0 like the Falcons are. But you got to take a look at this Sam Howell guy. Sam Howell, I think, has flown under the radar over these past 2 weeks to start the season. Sam Howell's getting the job done. He looks like he can be the starter the whole season for Washington. And honestly, people say that Anthony Richardson's looking like the best quarterback in the draft, which I agree. He does look like the best quarterback from the draft. Oh, wait, no. Sam Howell wasn't drafted this draft. But forget what I said. But anyway, you get the point. Sam Howell's looking pretty good so far for the Commanders. And I think with just a little patch-up work on the defense, they can be a low-key playoff contender in the NFC. Because like I said, Josh Allen, he tends to struggle against physical defenses, and it's shown in the past where he gets turnover-prone. Washington does have that kind of defense when they're clicking on all cylinders, and now they have newfound life on offense. So, to play it safe, I am going to go with the Buffalo Bills to win this game. But I would honestly not be surprised if the Commanders either make this game closer than what people think, or if they pull off the win. You know, Washington is 2-0, but even if they win, I would consider this an upset because Buffalo's favored by 6.5 going into this one. So I am going to go Buffalo, but don't be surprised if Washington makes this closer than it is. Next, we got the Houston Texans going to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. And to be fair with the Texans, they're 0-2. CJ Stroud has some potential. You know, he has some potential to be a starter in this league. But behind that busted O-line the Texans have, it's going to be quite a process, you know. The Texans, I mean, they definitely have what it takes to build around this kid and to make him into a decent starter. But like I said, it's just going to be a process. And I don't know if I'm going to take Houston for the rest of the season. So I'm going to go ahead and take Jacksonville to rebound after that bad loss they had to the Chiefs. Because at the end of the day, Jacksonville's just the better team. They play defense better, and I think that's just going to make life even tougher for CJ Stroud. Trevor Lawrence, I think he's going to rebound after having a tough game. And Jacksonville's weaponry, once again, just looking real well. And Doug Peterson, I can't stress it enough, is just working wonders with this Jacksonville team that he's developed down in Jacksonville. So I'm going to go with the Jags to improve to 2-1 and dropping the Houston Texans to 0-3. So, yeah, give me Jacksonville to win this one. Then we got the Indianapolis Colts heading over to Baltimore to play the Ravens. As I'll eat some crow with the Colts. You know, I said they were going to be very boom or bust at the beginning of the season. And like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, I think Anthony Richardson's looking like the best quarterback out of the draft. But there's a catch to it. Anthony Richardson suffered a concussion against the Texans, and he's now in concussion protocol. And with how strict the NFL is now with concussions, I don't anticipate him to start in this game, which really sucks. You know, I was really looking forward to this, you know, being kind of like who can get the most yards on the ground and which quarterback can have a better arm for this game. So that really sucks. I think Gardner Minshew's going to be Indy's starter for the time being. But then you got to take a look at the Ravens, which as a Steeler fan, I hate to say it, Lamar's throwing is looking way better. He was throwing dimes against the Bengals on Sunday. The Ravens' weapons are looking pretty solid so far, and their defense, while it is a little banged up, they are starting to click, and they are playing some pretty good football to start the year. So, honestly, if Anthony Richardson was healthy enough for this game, I think the Colts could make it a little closer. But regardless, I'm going to go Baltimore on this one to go to 3-0, just because the Ravens, you know, it seems like they're getting on their streak of just playing well on offense, and their defense is clicking, like I said, as well, while Indy just comes in undermanned in this game. So I am going to go with Baltimore, unfortunately, to improve to 3-0, while the Colts drop to a hard 1-2. Then for the later Sunday afternoon games, we got the Carolina Panthers and the Seattle Seahawks. This one is in Seattle as the Panthers are 0-2, but I got to tell you about Bryce Young. He definitely has potential, kind of like with CJ Stroud. He has potential, you know, to be a serviceable starter in this league. And I like the mentality that Bryce Young has with his repertoire of being a quarterback, because if you remember when he was in college, he generally played pretty well on the road, especially in SEC stadiums. And while it is a transition going from college to the NFL, quite a huge one actually, he just seems to, the hostile environments just don't really seem to faze him all that much. Where Seattle has always been a rowdy place to play at. And the Seahawks, you know, they had a get it right, you know, game as well, where the offense was clicking, and they took advantage of Detroit's passing defense. And Geno Smith had a really good game against Detroit. Kenneth Walker had a solid game as well. But it's going to come down to Carolina's defense. I think the Panthers, they can have a good defense. Their defense is very hit and miss, in my opinion. But I think at this point, they're just going to have a little too much on their plate going up against the firepower that the Seahawks are capable of having on offense. So I am going to go with the Seahawks to improve to 2-1 because, like I said, I think the Seahawks are just more experienced. I think they have more of a balanced offensive attack than the Panthers do. While Carolina, they could make it close, but in the end, I just think Seattle's the better team. I'm going with the Seahawks to get the job done over the Panthers. Next up, we got the Chicago Bears and the Kansas City Chiefs. And to keep it simple and short, this is going to be my spread of the week right here because I'm point hungry. I need some points in my tournament right here. So why not this? Kansas City is favored by 13 in this game. And I think the Chiefs will easily cover that and get some more. So this is my spread for the week. I want some points. The Chiefs got the job done over the Jaguars. They played great defense. Chris Jones playing like he earned that extension, and they finally got it together on offense. Patrick Mahomes finding Travis Kelce again for a touchdown pass. And Mahomes on his birthday had a really solid game once again. The Chiefs are looking like they are back to their old selves, and they're playing solid, offensively. And now they have some newfound life on defense. While the Chicago Bears, guess what, Bear fans? My verdict still stands on Justin Fields. I still don't buy him. I still don't think that he is, a top 15 quarterback in the league. Another pick six for him. Granted, Tampa Bay's defense is a little stingy, but Justin Fields is just not the answer. And now going to Arrowhead to play the Kansas City Chiefs, who almost never lose at home. I think with their defense rising up to the ranks, they're going to make life very hard for Justin Fields. I'm going Kansas City in an absolute blowout right here. Won't even be close. And then speaking of blowouts, we got another one right here between the Dallas Cowboys and the Arizona Cardinals. This one is in Glendale. Again, to keep it short and keep it at a minimum, I am locking up the Dallas Cowboys this week. What I saw against them, against the Jets, was just an absolute manslaughter, man. It was just complete and utter domination. First 2 weeks of the season, the Cowboys have outscored their opponents 70-10, which I know the Jets and Giants, they're not great teams. They're not, amazing teams. They're above average to mediocre teams at best, in my opinion. But the way the Cowboys have been playing on offense or on a defense, this literally has a no excuse here written for Dak Prescott to come up short. Because the Cowboys, they're getting it done on offense. They're looking respectable on offense. But, man, that Dallas defense is just looking lethal. Arizona, blowing a lead against the Giants, allowing Daniel Jones to have the amazing game that he did in the second half, and blowing it at home to the Giants. It don't get easier for them because I'm telling you, they are not going to build up a big lead like they did against the Giants, against the Cowboys. And I think the suspicion has been confirmed with them. They should just tank the season. They should just take their chances with Caleb Williams. I think the Cardinals are my clear-cut winner of who's going to be the number one overall pick next spring. I am going Dallas with my lock of the week. No problemo right here. All right, we got my matchup now with Sunday Night Football. Check your local listings. As I mentioned before, I personally think Goodell should flex this off a Sunday night and just make it a 4 o'clock game and put the Chargers and Vikings on Sunday night, but whatever. Sunday Night Football, we got an old school rivalry taking place. once again between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Las Vegas Raiders. This one is in Vegas. Well, the Steelers are 1-1, avoiding 0-2, a 26-22 dub over the Cleveland Browns, a game in which the Steelers made several mistakes and just did not play well at all offensively once again. Kenny Pickett disappointing again outside of that 72-yard touchdown pass to George Pickens. Running game non-existent once again. Mike Tomlin with that stupid wasted challenge, in the fourth quarter. And other than TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith generating the pressure, and at times Quan Alexander and Landon Roberts plugging up the hole against the run game, the Steelers' rush defense could be in big trouble once again going in this one because, well, we made the Browns beat us. We made the Browns try and beat us with Watson, just not in the way that I wanted it to do because Nick Chubb got hurt in the game and he's out for the rest of the season. But it's not like it's a smooth transition going from the Browns' run offense to the Raiders' run offense because Josh Jacobs, he had a miserable game against Buffalo with -2 yards rushing for Josh Jacobs. So, hey, Steeler fans, if you think our run game was bad, and if you think our run offense is bad, hey, at least they managed to get positive rushing yards. But I don't think it's going to be, continuous for the Raiders this season because, let's face it, Josh Jacobs is just way too good. He's the only guy on the Raiders that really scares me. And the only guy that really concerns me on their offense right there is Josh Jacobs. And I would say Davante Adams as well. But Davante Adams is also in concussion protocol. And like I said with Anthony Richardson, you know how the NFL is when it comes to concussions, especially with what happened last year to Tua Tagovailoa. So the Raiders, they're coming in a little banged up as well. And to me, it's going to come down to who I think is the more confident team coming into this game. Because, the Steelers have some demons coming into this one as well, where it was like the opposite of last week, where we always beat the Browns in Pittsburgh. The last time the Steelers beat the Raiders on the road, I am not even kidding, I was 3 days old. December 10th, 1995. That was the last time the Steelers beat the Raiders on the road. I was 3 days old. Not even kidding. So, I guess you can chalk it down to, well, Big Ben, he had those demons against the Raiders and all that stuff, because Big Ben never beat the Raiders on the road. But now you're going from the transition to where maybe Kenny Pickett can be that quarterback that can get the best of the Raiders. Because if you remember last year on Christmas Eve, where we were honoring Franco Harris, Kenny Pickett led that game-winning touchdown drive against the Raiders. But like I said, Kenny Pickett has been very disappointing to start this season for us. And through 2 weeks of the season, he's looking more like a rookie now than he did all of last year. But the Raiders, who they're countering with their quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo. Just a glorified game manager, a guy who's just going to be there and limit negativity and just be there to not turn the ball over, be careful, get his team in, position to score. I'm not too concerned about Jimmy Garoppolo, but Max Crosby going up against our offensive line, which absolutely sucks still, that's a mismatch right there. So it's also not to say, though, Vegas, they're going to have their hands full with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. So, honestly, I understand why the line is even, because these two teams just don't look good offensively at all to start the year. But like I said, I think it's going to come down to who has more confidence in this game. The Raiders got blown out by the Bills. And granted, Buffalo is a great team. They're a popular pick to be a Super Bowl contender. But the Steelers are coming off a win, and it may not have been the prettiest of wins, as well we generally tend to have not. We usually have pretty ugly wins, let's be honest. It's still a win at the end of the day. So I think the Steelers are a little bit more confident than the Raiders are coming into this one, and I'm going to cover more of this in my pregame on Friday. So despite me not really having the most confidence going into this game, I am going to give the Steelers another chance in pick'em here, and I'm going to say we go on the road and we beat the Raiders. I think our defense is going to be a mismatch for Jimmy G. I think we can, limit Josh Jacobs, even though it's not going to be a tall order, because Josh Jacobs was like a non-factor when we played him on Christmas Eve. And with him having -2 rushing yards, Mike Tomlin has to come up with something as far as the rush defense goes. Get Keanu Benton involved. Have Quan Alexander and Landon Roberts, if he's healthy enough to play in this game, be the factor. So, yeah, I am not 100% confident that we can win this game, but I am going to pick my team to go ahead and get the job done over the Raiders on Sunday Night Football and win our second straight game. So give me the Steelers to get the job done over the Raiders. Then, once again, we got 2 Monday Night Football games. First up, we got the Philadelphia Eagles going down to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers, as the Eagles are 2-0, but they really don't look so dominant to start the year. I mean, they look good, but I really don't know if they look like the Super Bowl team that everyone's hyping them up to be, especially with a roster loaded like they have. I mean, Jalen Hurts zipped a 63-yard touchdown pass to Devontae Smith, I think it was. But Philly's defense has been kind of underwhelming to start the year. And that's a little bit of a disappointment for me, because Philly has, I said Philly has the best defense in the league going into this season. And they allow Kirk Cousins and especially Justin Jefferson to just light them up defensively last Thursday night. But hey, like you say, you take the win however you can, and Philly's 2-0. Then another 2-0 team, the Buccaneers. Who thought Tampa Bay would be 2-0? Well, Baker Mayfield is surprisingly playing well. They got a good running back in the backfield in White, and the defense is still looking pretty solid for Tampa Bay, and they're doing all this without Tom Brady. Mike Evans is looking like the old receiver that we know he could be. So yeah, I mean, the Bucs are feeling good about themselves. They have some momentum going in this game, and if I'm a Bucs fan, I'd feel a little confident going into this one. However, there is one factor that I think separates the Eagles from the Bucs. And you want to know what that is? The Eagles are on a 10-day rest. They played last Thursday. Or no, an 11-day rest, actually. The Eagles had 11 days of rest. They played last Thursday, and they had a week and a half to rest up and get prepared for this game. The only real sacrifice is just flying on down to Tampa Bay. But even then, they still have a ton of time to get ready for that game. And generally, when teams have a short week, but they follow it up with having that much time to rest, I generally lean towards the team that played on Thursday night. The Bucs, Minnesota, they didn't play all that well against them, and the Bears are just not a good team. Now they're going up against the defending NFC champions, and Baker Mayfield never really struck me as an elite quarterback when it comes to playing in primetime and going up against a defense like Philly. Because like I said, Philly's defense is really good. I just think it needs to up their game a little bit. So I'm going to go with the Eagles to improve to 3-0. Plus another stat here, which is crazy to think about. Are you ready for this? in the last 20 starts where Jalen Hurts has been the starting quarterback for the Eagles are 19-1. I am not making that up. 19-1 in Jalen Hurts' last 20 starts. So I think that trend will continue. I think Philly will continue to find ways to win with Jalen Hurts. I think they are very well rested and very energetic going into this one. I like the Eagles to improve to 3-0. I do think Tampa Bay can give them a good game just because the Eagles have been kind of off to start the year. But let's be honest, Philly is just too good, to pick against. I'm going to go Philly to go to 3-0. Then wrapping up week 3, we got a rematch of Super Bowl 56 between the Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals. This one is in Paycor. The Rams are surprisingly 1-1, and they honestly don't look half bad. I mean, this was a team that I was saying, they're going to be a bottom 5 team in the league. They're going to have a top 5 pick in the draft. Even if Matthew Stafford, even if Matthew Stafford comes back, I don't really think it's going to make much of a difference. But even though Cooper Kupp is on IR, they got this young guy named Puka Nacua, if I'm pronouncing his name right. Please correct me in the comments if I'm saying his name wrong. But this Puka Nacua guy, who the Rams have, he's been stepping it up, and he's been playing real well. And the Rams, it looks like they can still put points on the board, and their defense looks way better than I thought it'd be. So, yeah, I mean, even though Matthew Stafford threw a real bad pick against the 49ers, you got to know, the 49ers are one of the best defensive teams in the league. And the Rams went up to Seattle not too long ago and beat the Seahawks in week 1. But then you got to take a look at the Bengals. They're 0-2, but they're also 0-2 in the division. They dropped 2 divisional games to start the season, getting blown out in Cleveland, and then the Ravens came into Cincinnati and spoiled their home opener where Lamar was just hitting targets left and right. But that's the least of the Bengals' worries, in my opinion. Why is that? Joe Burrow re-aggravated his leg in the Ravens game, and his status, according to Zach Taylor, is, quote, up in the air. So maybe Bengals fans are being like, well, we were 0-2 last year and we still made the AFC Championship. But I got to tell you, if I'm a Bengals fan, I'd be worried now because Joe Burrow got hurt in training camp, and now he just re-aggravated that same leg that he injured in training camp. And there is a good chance that he may not play in this game. Plus, the Rams on defense, they know how to run the house when it comes to getting to Joe Burrow. All you really got to do is look at footage from Super Bowl 56. You can say vice versa about the Bengals. But, man, the Bengals just look really off so far to start the year. And while I generally don't trust Matthew Stafford in primetime, and I generally don't like to pick teams that... I generally don't like to pick teams based off of one player making a difference. I am actually going to make this my upset of the week. That's right, baby. I am going with the Los Angeles Rams to win the Super Bowl rematch, drop the Bengals to a stunning 0-3, and if the Bengals lose this game to drop to 0-3, I don't know if they can come out of it because Joe Burrow's banged up. Their offense has been very inconsistent to start the season. And while the defense has looked okay for the Bengals so far, I really don't know if they're going to be able to step up to the reins and stop this Puka Nacua kid who's becoming a sensation pretty much for the Rams. So yeah, I am taking a big gamble right here, and I am going with the Los Angeles Rams to go to Cincinnati and win the Super Bowl 56 rematch. So give me the Rams to beat the Bengals. How about that, guys? 49 minutes this time. I kept it under an hour, so mission accomplished. So, yeah, those are my Week 3 picks. And as always, let me know what you think down in the comments below, and good luck to everybody in my tournament. This is Mac checking on out for the night. Have a good one, everybody.